Hello, welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, comment, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We would love to hear your ratings of the movies and shows we review.
Email us your audio file to recappingpodcast@gmail.com and we will play it during the show.
Or DM us on Instagram and we will post and read it on air.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
Delora, so it is officially February, which means it is Black History
Month. Is there a song? We need a song.
There does need to be some type of jingle for that. Beyonce, I guess Black Parade, one could say, is that thing.
Stevie, where are you?
Exactly.
Anthems for everything else.
Exactly. As LeBron said, though, we celebrate Black excellence every single day of the year.
365.
But I will say these next 4 episodes, y'all, me and Delora are going to be blackity, black, black, black.
Blackity, black, black.
Okay. I was going to hit y'all with some form of a Black history fact to start it off. But listen, you can find them everywhere right now.
Literally.
I would recommend Joy Reid, the host of the Readout on MSNBC. She had a great video on IG about the origins of the month. So I encourage everybody to go check that out. Let's go ahead and slide into these hot topics, Delora. So
yes,
some honorable mentions that I was looking at this week as I was looking at hot topics were Courtside Karen trying to come for King James
is she
on
really
the court.
25?
That woman don't look 25 to me, but
cough.
You know, black don't crack, so I don't know nothing about that non-melanated life.
Sips tea.
Tracy Ellis Ross partnering with Ulta as their diversity and inclusion advisor.
Boss moves, love it.
And lastly, Trey Songz
Lord,
in this alleged
Jesus, there's a fire.
Say, I'm still not over it.
First of all, I was not prepared for you to say that. Okay, my mom listens to this podcast, Ashley.
Listen,
oh my gosh.
Mom knows we grown. And she needs to know what people be sharing out here on these internets.
Why am I blushing? Why am I blushing?
Because you watched that video more than once. That's why you blushing.
Not. Sis.
Hey.
Done. I'm dead.
May have. I may have. Okay? I may have. So, because we are a TV and film pod, we have to talk about these nominations.
Girl,
we have nominations on nominations on nominations this week.
Literally, everybody named Mama came out this week.
Girl, the Golden Globes dropped their nominations. Then we had the NAACP Image Awards drop their nominations. And lastly, the Screen Actors Guild Award dropped their nominations, all within like 2 or 3 days.
Yes, the NAACP was first. I give them that.
Listen, Black History Month come through. Okay.
Come through.
Let me start. I'm just going to go in order of when they're supposed to air. Because again, COVID, never know, things can be delayed further. But let me start with these Golden Globe nominations. So we're not going to read all of these guys because these lists are extensive. You can find them on lovely Google, but we'll hit some of the highlights, some of the Black nominees, some of the history-making nominees, all of that. So Golden Globes, which is going to air February 28th on NBC. History-making number of female directors nominated, Delora. 3, including Regina King for what?
One Night in
Miami, which is our recap for today, guys.
Yes.
We also have Chloe Zhao for Nomadland and Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. Only 5 women had ever been recognized in this category in more than 7 decades.
Girl. Fun fact on Emerald, she's Camilla in The Crown.
Is that right?
Yes. I was like, ooh, this is juicy. That's that. Okay, she's an actress / director. Mm-hmm.
She's all the things. Let's focus on these Black nominees for the Golden Globes. Black excellence is being celebrated, as BET has mentioned in their article. Don Cheadle is up for Best Performance by an Actor in a Television Series for his role in Black Monday.
Yes.
We have John Boyega, who's nominated for Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role for his role in Small Axe. We have Daniel Kaluuya's role in Black Panther Party film Judas and the Black Messiah. Leslie Odom Jr.'s performance in One Night in Miami has earned both of those actors nominations for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. Viola Davis and Andra Day's performances have earned nominations in the Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama category. Viola for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which we'll be recapping in 2 weeks, guys.
Yes.
And Andra Day's first acting role in The United States versus Billie Holiday. Regina King's first directorial debut, again for One Night in Miami as a director, placed her in the category for Best Director Motion Picture. And Chadwick Boseman, may he rest in peace, posthumous nomination for Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama for his role as well in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Additionally, Delora loves this show. Lovecraft Country made the nomination list for Best Television Series Drama.
Sure did.
And
it's
Disney
missing a couple of nominations, but cough on that one.
Disney Pixar's Soul, which we are actually going to recap as our last film of the month, was nominated for Best Motion Picture Animated. So again, that was just some of the Black nominees. There was some also criticism about, yet again, a lack of diversity, though, Delora, on the TV side. And most notably, the biggest snub, I May Destroy You,
girl,
that aired on HBO by Michaela Cole.
That show made me feel uncomfortable, but the one thing that I do know is that Michaela acted her ass off, okay? I mean, that whole entire cast, that show was unbelievable, okay?
It was a phenomenal show. We did not end up discussing it on the podcast just because of the heaviness of the subject matter.
And we just got into a brand new day. So where we were previously, for our mental health, we couldn't go through that series.
But we talked about it off mic, acknowledged the brilliance, the fact that this was a personal story for her, something she had actually been through.
She wrote, she directed, she starred.
Thank you,
girl.
Y'all know I love saying all the things. You probably get tired of hearing me say it, but she did all the things for that. So yes, it did feel like a snub.
In the words of Auntie Patty LaBelle, period poo.
And that's on Mary Had a Little Lamb. Okay. Definitely agree that it felt very snubbish, but when we move on to our other award shows, Michaela was acknowledged, thankfully. Lastly, I was going to say about the Globes that many of our recap shows, Laura, as you mentioned when you sent me some of these articles, were nominated, girl. Everything from Queen's Gambit to Emily in Paris to The Undoing to Normal People. And as I already mentioned, One Night in Miami, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and Soul, which we'll be getting to.
This month. Guys. But Ashley, I'm not gonna lie. When I saw Emily in Paris,
did you feel some type of way?
I sure did. I sure did. The mediocrity of it all. It was cute. It was cute. But is it Golden Globe?
Absolutely not.
Thank you. Thank you. I know I'm not insane. Thank you.
And that is no knock whatsoever, in my opinion, on the abilities of Lily Collins. Or it's just, you know how Katherine Heigl said dismissively and controversially about Grey's Anatomy that, oh, I can't possibly go up for this award because the writing is up to par.
Yeah.
In this case, I would say that I would be feeling that way. There's no reason why this should be Golden Globe nominated.
Not at all. Honestly,
enjoyed it for what it was.
It was cotton candy. But Golden Globes,
let me see the Tootsie Roll. Yes,
I was looking for steak and potato dinner. Okay, absolutely. I don't want cotton candy at the Golden Globes.
But again, you talk about snubbing Michaela and then giving Emily in Paris a nod. Come through. Come on,
girl. But speaking of any old show can get a nomination, why didn't Bridgerton get a nomination? Because guess what? You'll go into the other awards, but they received some recognition that
especially
they didn't get any love.
Jean.
Girl.
Yeah.
Didn't get any recognition at the Golden Globes. If we're gonna do that, we might as well go all the way. Okay.
Agreed. That again, there were some glaring snubs for sure. Glad to
Where's
hear on the
Black is
pulse. True. Ooh.
That was my other snub. I was like, this is Golden Globe, so where's Black is King? I don't see it.
Ooh. Very true. Glad that we're on the pulse, obviously, with our recaps, but absolutely felt some of these snubs. I just think for me, one of the reasons why I don't care that much is because Golden Globes, I don't care about y'all like that. Same way that I've said about some of these other award shows, I've just kind of stopped caring about y'all as far as y'all opinions
The Hollywood
go.
foreign press is extremely fickle, and they like it like that, I feel like. You know what I mean?
Y'all like being out of touch. That's fine. That's fine.
It's a popularity contest. It's a small group of people. It's very cliquish. You know, it's not the whole industry, you know, like the SAG.
Let's move into the NAACP Image Awards, the 52nd, by the way, NAACP Image Awards. The show is going to air Saturday, March 27th on BET and CBS, may I say.
Yay!
Netflix actually leads with 51 nominations for their content. Wow, Beyonce leads the individual noms with 6 for Black Parade, Black is King, and her Savage remix feature. One Night in Miami received 6 noms, including Outstanding Motion Picture. One thing I love too about the NAACP Image Awards is some of these additional categories, like Social Justice Impact Award is April Ryan's up for that, Debbie Allen, LeBron, Stacey Abrams, Tamika Mallory, like Entertainer of the Year. D Nice is up, Regina King, Viola Davis, Trevor Noah, Tyler Perry. You know, I just like the inclusion of some of these other categories. Was there anything that like stood out for you in terms of these award nominations?
I feel like for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, they were stretching it a little bit, giving Will Smith a nomination for Bad Boy. I was like, why? Like, and what is the deal with only one actor from the movie we're recapping tonight getting nominations? I mean, I don't want to give it away, but I really believe more than one person deserved a nomination.
I agree, and I can't wait to talk about that when we get to our recap.
Me too.
Our last award show, Screen Actors Guild Awards, is going to air Sunday, April 4th on TNT and TBS. This particular award show, known for being a very, very prolific predictor of who's going to win the Oscars, is history making in that Chadwick Boseman is the first actor to ever receive 4 nominations in film categories in a single year for his roles in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and The Five Bloods, receiving lead actor nods for both, as well as being a part of the outstanding performance by a cast categories.
Oh yeah, Spike Lee was also iced out of the Golden Globes also. That's something I just remembered.
You know, Spike don't play. He's gonna make some noise about this.
Sure, he does not play at all.
No. Was there anything in terms of the SAG nominations that surprised you, interested you, that you want to talk about?
No, again, only one of our guys from One Night in Miami got a nomination, but I was really happy to see Regé-Jean Page get a nomination for his work in Bridgerton.
And again, as I mentioned, Michaela may have got snubbed in the Golden Globes, but she received love from the SAGs.
She sure did. Cobra Kai and Lovecraft Country are in the same category for outstanding action performance by stunt ensemble in comedy or drama series. And I say that because those shows are very different, but definitely action packed. So, you know,
I saw that Cobra Kai. I was like, again, we're on the pulse of this thing, Delora. We're on the pulse.
Yes, we are.
Well, that's really all that we have for Hot Topics today.
Ashley, I'm so excited to kick off our Black History Month recap with One Night in Miami. I mean, this film not only has one icon, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 legendary men in this film.
It's so much.
And we felt like it would be an awesome opportunity to get a male's perspective. So we have our very first guest, my friend, Andrew. Welcome to the podcast, Andrew.
That's the
applause.
That's the crowd coming in.
Introduce yourself, please, to the audience.
Absolutely. My name is Andrew Tudor. I am a fan of music, travel from Cincinnati, Ohio. By day. Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
Don't hate, Delora. Let us have this moment.
I'm a Michigan fan. Here we go.
Let us have this moment.
I know, and that's
a
tough life.
You live somewhere else, so anyway.
It's a tough life.
So do you, ma'am. So do you.
So what? Ohio till I die. Period.
Tell her. I'm a numbers geek by day, so I do financial planning on my own investment firm with my brother, which has been awesome. But we're here to talk about Black legends, Black male legends, and I'm here for it. So let's do this.
That Black financial economic power is going to be a topic of discussion, Andrew.
Sure will.
You're right. You're right.
All right. So today's recap: One Night in Miami. It is an Amazon Prime Video original, rated R. It's an hour and 54 minutes long. It's a drama, and it dropped online January 8th, 2021. Here's a synopsis. On the night of February 25th, 1964, in Miami, Cassius Clay joins Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, and Malcolm X, and they discuss the responsibility of being successful Black men during the Civil Rights Movement. The cast includes Kinsley Benedier as Malcolm X. You've seen him on High Fidelity, which is a Hulu original, Pinky Blinders, and he recently played Obama in The Comey Rule, which is a Showtime miniseries. Eli Goree as Cassius Clay. Notable performance has been in Riverdale. We have Aldous Hodge.
I didn't even remember him from Riverdale. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. He plays Jim Brown. He's most notable for his role in Underground, and he's now on the show, a Showtime show called City on a Hill. Leslie Odom Jr. as Sam Cooke, best known for his role in Hamilton.
Your boy.
More recently, Harriet. And then we're going to go ahead and go into the director, the wonderful, magnificent Regina King.
Cincinnati, Ohio's finest. Sorry.
Actress extraordinaire. I mean, she is Oscar winner, Golden Globe winner, Emmy winner, overall phenomenal woman. And Kemp Powers is the writer. He originally wrote this as a screenplay. So he's a playwright by the same name, One Night in Miami, which premiered on stage in 2013. So overall, Rotten Tomatoes, the critics has given this film 98%. For the audience, which is everyday viewers, they rated this at 83%. And Google users liked it 87% of the time. More recently, it's gotten some award love. So we have 6 NAACP awards for Best Picture, Supporting Actor, Director, and Writing, Golden Globe nomination for Best Director, Supporting Actor, and Best Original Song, and 2 SAG Award nominations for Cast and Supporting Actor. So let's go into our ratings or grades. So Andrew, since you are our guest, please go first.
Ooh, no pressure. I rate this movie an A. Not plus, not minus. Solid A. Okay. 94% if we're doing percentile.
Oh wow!
Thank
and
you.
We'll get into it later why. But I thought it was wonderfully written. I thought the pace It's tough when you go from screen play to movie to keep the pace. So I thought pace was great.
Exactly.
And two of my favorite guys, Aldous Hodge and Leslie Odom, I hadn't seen them act this well. I think Leslie Odom acted, this is his best performance as an actor. So 94 percentile A.
Very nice. Thank you. Ashley?
I give it an A+.
Oh.
And that is a hard grade.
You don't get a lot of those.
Thank you. I was just going to say, you already know. But it meets, as I said in every recap, my criteria for why it is at the top of the rating scale. Okay. Cast was stellar. Story was stellar. Black excellence. Black female director. The cast was so stellar, in fact, that I can say I was completely sold on them being these men as I was watching this film. I escaped into every single one of their performances. It also took me down this magical history rabbit hole. I have to say, it probably took me a good 3.5 hours the first time I watched this.
So did I.
I probably paused it 5 times. And it gave me things I didn't even know I needed. I love this line that Kent Power said in the Deadline interview. It was like discovering the Black Avengers. Yes.
That is what it was.
Yes.
That is what it was.
So that's why.
And Malcolm X was like Captain Not America. Yeah.
Andrew. There
Captain
you go.
Africa.
There you go.
That's what it was.
There you go.
Well said, sir.
Go.
All right. And my grade is a solid A. It's a solid A. I felt like it was well written. I felt like the performances were dynamic. The only reason why it's not an A+, honestly, I don't know why, because when I watched it the second time, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I really enjoyed this film. Okay. And so we're going to give our spoiler alerts. Okay. So talk about Black excellence as a running theme, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about this film into 3 sections. Okay. So I'm going to talk about it before February 25th, 1964, the night of that one night in Miami, and then the aftermath. All right. So I'm going to start off with recapping the first half. So the film starts off with Muhammad Ali. It is 1963. He's fighting Cooper. The fight doesn't really go the way he plans because he gets knocked out. We later find out that he actually won that fight.
Not knocked out. He was knocked against the road.
Knocked down. He was knocked down.
Yeah,
he saw some lights.
Yeah, he did. He got dazed. But I just wanted, when we talk about Muhammad Ali, let's be clear.
Yeah,
that man did not get
knocked out.
Yeah, that was not a KO.
Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome. Just had to be particular on that.
So let's go to our next legend. Sam Cooke is performing at the Copacabana in New York City, and he bombs. At this point, though, he did have a #1 single, You Send Me, personal fave. Mm-hmm. And it's just not a good look. He didn't connect with the audience. It was an all-white crowd, middle-aged white people, and they didn't like this young Black man singing to him. And fun note, that performance actually happened in 1958. So the movie doesn't do it justice in terms of the timeline, but it's definitely noteworthy. Jim Brown is driving somewhere in the South. At this point, it was his hometown,
Delora, his hometown in Georgia.
Yes, his hometown in Georgia. And he's visiting a Mr. Carlton. I guess his aunt essentially said that this man really wanted to meet him, and they have a great conversation. In this conversation, we find out that Jim Brown is doing his thing in NFL, crushing records. He's well admired. At one point, the gentleman mentioned, if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. However, when the conversation came to an end, Jim Brown was essentially put in his place because the gentleman had to move some furniture. They were all on his porch, and Jim Brown asked, "Hey, I can help you. big, burly NFL man. Of course, he can move some furniture for this man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the man just nonchalantly said, we don't let niggas in the house.
I laughed because this scene was so jarring. Like, I was
But
stopped
isn't
dead
that
in
how
my
racism
tracks.
catches us on a regular basis?
That is definitely how subtle racism catches it. I was just it was so unexpected. It was so impactful because of how unexpected it was in that moment, right? Knocked you on your ass.
Girl.
You think you get away from it too. It was the exact scene of like, I'm not black, I'm OJ.
Woo.
Like he's
Ooh,
OJ
yes,
before
Andrew.
OJ. He
Yes,
is the
Andrew.
record holder,
That is
running back of
excellent
everywhere.
point.
And he's like, Jay-Z was like, okay, like we'll see.
Yes, sir.
Still nigga. Like
Yeah.
literally, no matter what you do, you're still a nigga to me.
Yeah, and they
But
set
have a
it
great
up
day.
so well. They set
And
it up
have a great
so well.
day.
Yeah.
But you know what he didn't do though? I don't know. This is me being petty. He didn't drink that lemonade. I don't know if y'all noticed that.
Hell no, he ain't drink that lemonade. This ain't.
He ain't asked for it neither.
This is not a scene from Get Out. I'm not drinking nothing.
This is also 1960s in the United States of America. So, all
I
right.
mean, to Jim Brown's credit, the difference between him and OJ is Jim Brown never forgot that he was a black man.
Never.
1,000%.
Mhm.
And but they never let him forget. It's interesting that he went into movies. I mean, OJ literally did exactly what Jim Brown did.
That's
Broke
true.
the records.
Yeah.
And
went
you know
into
what's sad
movies.
is? You really quick, you know what's really sad? I actually didn't know much about Jim Brown.
Oh yeah. Well, see, we're from Ohio, and not being funny, like he's the legendary Cleveland Brown
Yeah.
like, of all time. And his name was Jim Brown, like it was destiny. So like we grew up knowing Jim
Browns.
Brown. I was a running back in high school and college. Like he is like Barry Sanders.
This is why we
and
have you on
OJ.
this podcast, because
So
you're
he's like that
adding
guy.
so much color to this conversation.
Thank you. So he's the guy, right? He's OJ before OJ, but he was from the South, so he knew. OJ was from the West Coast. OJ's from LA. He lived that life. He really thought that he'd surpassed racism. It was good.
That was cute, huh, Andrew? That was cute.
That was cute. Yeah.
All right. And last and certainly not least, Malcolm X. Malcolm X is a man with his back against the wall at this point. This is at a time, if you're familiar with his story, where he's actively talking about leaving the nation due to their leaders' indiscretions within their community. And the issue that he's facing, because there's a conversation between him and his lovely wife, Betty X, on what to do, because if and when he leaves, they have nothing because the nation owns everything. And so Malcolm says, you know what? I have one more ace. And then that brings us to that one night in Miami.
Perfect
All
segue.
right. So you all kind of did this for me a little bit, but any other initial reactions about the actor, the history, the film at this point before we go into the big night?
I'll let you go first, Andrew.
I was just excited to be watching it happen. I think it's a testament to how Black storytellers get to tell stories again. Black director, Black writer, Kent Powers is Howard graduate. He also wrote and co-directed Soul.
Hey, sir, why are you doing our job? Yes.
Oh, my
thank
bad.
you.
My bad.
No, you're
Thank you for
fine.
bringing
Because
that
we're
up.
recapping that at the end of the month, Andrew. That'll be our last
Got it. So,
one.
So tune back in and tune. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Stay
Go
tuned
ahead.
to Soul. But no, it's interesting to watch like Black excellence ring true and like know that it has to come from our perspective. So I was just excited to like celebrate these men and like the dynamic views of how exactly pushing the Black folks, the Black community forward can show up in different places. And it's a very spirited, needed debate on what's the right way, because everybody doesn't have to play the same role.
Yes,
So
yes.
I thought it was beautiful.
All right. What about you, Ashley?
I was just gonna say, I know, Delora, you mentioned earlier that Jim Brown of the four was the one you knew the least about. Sam Cooke was the one I knew the least about. So he's the one I went down the rabbit hole of because, again, I just really, really, really enjoyed the layers of history that I was getting that I was unaware of. Even Malcolm X, I have to say, I thought I knew quite a bit about, and this film gave me nuggets.
When
like
I
his
tell
love
you
for photography that I absolutely never knew about. Go ahead.
Really quick, I'm so sorry. My deep dive of Malcolm X happened in the last 2 years, because I always tell my friends this. I feel like growing up I was Martin, but as I've gotten older, I've become Malcolm.
Because struggle. Martin became Malcolm.
I think
Martin became Malcolm.
That's very true.
I think they really did come to a really strong place at the same point, close to both of their deaths.
Mind you, just being sick and tired of being sick and tired type of conversation, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, my deep dive of Malcolm happened in the last 2 years. So Spike Lee's Malcolm X is a masterpiece, and the fact that it got no love is something that I don't think I could get over. Granted, I'm way late, but after watching it, okay. And then stay tuned for our hidden gems, because I have another recommendation for that as well for Malcolm X.
That's really all I had. I can say too, as I was watching because at the beginning of the film or throughout this film, he's still Cassius Clay, he's not Muhammad Ali yet, but I still started wondering, comparing his performance to Will Smith, and I couldn't figure out where I landed on if I thought whose performance I thought was more accurate. But
David and I did the same thing.
I thoroughly enjoyed his version of Cassius Clay at this point in time in his career.
Freaking loved it.
He was so young. He was 22.
So full of energy.
Years old. Yeah.
All of those Cassius
the biggest
Clay,
shit talker of all time.
Yeah, I was gonna say all of those moments, the beating on the chest, all of that. I'm like, oh my God.
The faces. Yes.
This is too much.
It was incredible.
But I just really want to hear what Layla Ali thought about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to hear from some of the folks who are new and family of these people to know what they thought as well. But
I will happily report that Jim Brown has seen it, and he enjoyed it. So
good to know.
And I will say, for my initial reactions of the actors and everything, I can't even tell you who's my favorite actor. I mean, I felt like Malcolm X, the gentleman Kinsley, did an amazing job. I mean, just his voice in whenever he gets upset or, in the moment of, trying to prove a point or whatnot. Again, Cassius Clay, amazing. I will say, out of the mannerisms, I really didn't know much about Sam Cooke. Although I know his music, I didn't watch a lot of his live performances. And so after watching this film and going down a YouTube rabbit hole, Leslie Odom Jr. definitely captured the essence of Sam Cooke. And the other thing I'm going to say about him is, I was like, okay, he's trying to get this award to grow gold with just a nose, because he definitely got a nose job for,
prosthetic,
of course. So.
Well, I even heard one of the actors say that they listened to a version of, I believe it was A Change Is Gonna Come. It could have been You Send Me. And he couldn't tell whether it was Sam Cooke or Leslie Odom Jr.'s recording. That's how on point Leslie was. I mean, phenomenal.
Leslie's voice is a little bit higher than Sam Cooke's, but both amazing voice.
Wonderful. I was a little taken aback when I saw that he was playing Sam Cooke, because I've seen Hamilton a lot. I've seen him in other films. I listen to his album. So he's one of my favorite singers. I listen to him daily. But I was afraid he wasn't going to act it well enough, because he's like a quirky actor. And I'm really happy to see that I think it's the difference between being on stage and being more of a showy, your entire body. And then when it's on film and the small screen, the nuances of his facial expressions were all on point, especially when we get to the scene where he's talking about Bobby Womack and the Valentinos and he's snapping his finger about Rolling Stones. He did it. It was a perfect rendition, I thought.
And Andrew, that's such a good point too, because there are 8+ top actors in the field, appearance based on salary and all of that, I'm saying, who cannot go from stage to screen or vice versa. So that's truly a phenomenal gift.
It is. And I think he nailed it in this performance for the first time. Like, to be honest, I've seen him. There was the Love in Quarantine.
Yes.
And it was just I didn't love it. I hadn't loved any of his big screen performances until this one. And I was like, oh yeah, he's been working on his craft of small screen performances in his show.
Nice.
Very nice. All right. We've made it February 25th, 1964. The reason why this night is so important is because this is the heavyweight championship fight. Cassius Clay is fighting against Sonny Liston, who is the current heavyweight champion. That is something that I did not know beforehand. And so Cassius Clay was essentially the underdog going into this fight.
7-1 that Sonny Liston was going to win.
7-1.
7-1.
7-1 on a 22-year-old from Louisville, Kentucky. That no one knows.
And I also like to call this night also a seismic shift, because so many things changed after this fight, right? So Ali, or Cassius Clay, wins. In the audience, he has Malcolm X taking pictures. Can I just say, where are these pictures? I need them. All the pictures that Malcolm X has taken through the years, like, I need to know. Jim Brown is commentating on the fight, and Sam Cooke is there in the audience. And fun fact, the relationship between Sam Cooke and Ali is because Ali has a song, kind of like in our generation, how Kobe had a single, Shaq had an album. Ali or Cassius Clay had a whole entire song.
The gang is all here.
Yes, look at you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Andrew just raised the roof, y'all.
It was news to me. Okay.
Wow, I had no idea either.
So the fight is over. Clay wins, and it's time to party. So Malcolm says, "Party at my hotel." Okay, and let's just say Malcolm is a bit of a buzzkill, because all he wants to do is have a night of reflection, y'all. And then this is where the meat and potatoes is of the film. So
can I say real quick that him only having vanilla ice cream is a true story? All he had was vanilla ice cream.
When I tell you the way that Jim and Sam was like, I wanted to party. Like, Sam was like, all I want to do is go to Fontainebleau and have a good time. And they were like, oh, we got ice cream.
I've been a part of championships before. If I would have went to somebody's hotel room and all they had was vanilla ice cream and we were supposed to sit there and talk, I'd have left.
Pissed. Yeah.
Been
a little bit pissed.
Hey, Malcolm, this is cool, man. I'm gonna dap you
up.
You.
Yes. Yeah. And
we got bottles at the club. Yeah, we got bottles South Beach, brother. Like,
this man just won his first heavyweight title.
Yes.
It was a lot.
You know, I heard that vanilla means something when it comes to Black people, vanilla ice cream. Like, we weren't allowed to have it during segregation time. Granted, this is during segregation, so I don't know.
Huh.
Yeah.
But I did hear him say, Sam, I hear vanilla is your flavor of choice.
I wonder if Malcolm really was throwing some low blows, because Malcolm throws some low blows in this film.
Malcolm, I mean, he had 0 F's to give on all fronts. You know what I mean? And speaking of not giving any cares, Malcolm told the group that Cassius Clay is transitioning into Islam. Clay wasn't ready to let everybody know.
And Jim and Sam were not excited.
First of
whatsoever.
all, I'm just going to go ahead and say this now. Jim Brown's character in this film was the funniest person. I mean, all his lines had me rolling. So the conversation came to Cooke and Brown, like, oh, would you ever convert? And he was like, have you ever had my grandma's pork chops before.
And that's
For
on Mary
real.
Had a Little Lamb. Okay, I love my mama's pork chops. Love them. That was my last meal before I moved to Florida. I still think about it regularly.
But I want to get to something bigger with these conversations before we go back into more detail. I feel like most of the night was the battle between ideologies, specifically between Sam Cooke and Malcolm X. And I like to call it, the woke Negro versus I don't want to be broke Negro. You know what I mean?
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like
so-
that. I like that.
And what I mean is, Sam is feeling himself. He likes nice things, okay? He went into the hotel and immediately said, "This is dumb." And he didn't even care that he couldn't go into the Fontainebleau through the front door, but you know what? He could afford it, therefore he's going to stay there. So, I mean, what do you think about this dynamic?
I think it's a really good one. Actually, yeah, if you want to jump in, feel free. I just think that the everyone has their own role to play. And like what bothers me, and I get it, and I actually love Malcolm X for it, like his purity around like there's a fence, you're either with us or you're against us, and it's time to get off the fence, right?
Yes.
And like that sounds great. Like I love that idea, but like I don't really see that as how it always plays out, because I think it was great when Leslie said, "All right, let's talk about your side of the fence. Elijah Muhammad in the biggest house in Southside Chicago, living like a pharaoh. Like I've been to Chicago. Like
His family's from there.
I'm from Southside.
and you haven't even put out there that he's got 6 girls pregnant under the age of 18. But like, how are you going to preach to me about what I should be doing when you're quoting a person who's not even doing that stuff? So like, it's so much gray. And I think I just hate people's like absolute judgment. Like this is right, this is wrong. Cause like, that's not how life goes.
Yeah. I just wanted to say about this was absolutely my favorite part of the film because I love a healthy debate. And I thought that they both made some excellent points, and especially where we are right now feels again so relevant. Exactly. But I to your point, had the issue with the hypocrisy, calling out the hypocrisy. And also, Sam was about trailblazing in his mind and financial freedom. And, he was the first Black artist ever to own his own label. He owned his own masters. He helped other Black artists. He mentions the scene that Andrew loves about the British invasion and investing in that. And the Rolling Stones putting checks in him and Bobby Womack's pockets when they don't even realize they out here working hard and we sitting back making money,
So wait,
Let's
my
talk
favorite
about
part,
that.
my
Go
favorite
ahead,
part
go
when
ahead.
he's like, don't talk about getting a piece of the pie. I want the recipe.
I want the recipe.
My favorite quote. He said, I don't want a piece of the pie. I want the goddamn recipe. Okay?
I want the goddamn recipe. And who's woke now? How we make these assumptions about people who are doing well economically. And I think it's slave house versus field. I mean, it's a lot of that internal debate that we cannibalize ourselves. But like the question is, Malcolm, why don't you ask me my strategy instead of assuming you know my strategy?
Very true.
Because it's like he's going about it a different way, but it is extremely effective.
It's extremely effective. And I want to mention at that particular point, Malcolm was asking Sam, where's your message? What are you talking about? He went as far as to say that you're making songs for bigot children. You're a monkey dancing around. Like he hit it under the belt multiple times.
He did.
Absolutely.
He did.
And-
Like I said,
said,
both. Go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead.
He actually said, like, who doesn't belong here? Sam, you're the only one here that white people like, one. And he said, you're the only one not contributing to the struggle. That is a direct quote.
Yeah.
And it's just so, and then he goes about let me tell you about how I'm contributing to the struggle. First and foremost, Malcolm, you're unemployed in isolation.
Wait,
and there's a hit out for
One
your
of my
head.
favorite quotes in the
wait,
whole
wait,
thing. You ain't
Negro,
got no job.
you ain't got no job.
You ain't got no job. Your house is about to get repossessed. You are in financial and physical dire straits right now because, and I'm on the other side of that. And I'm not saying what you're doing is right or wrong, but like I'm doing the struggle. I'm employing Black people. I love that story about the Valentinos and Bobby Womack. I had no idea.
No idea.
Like I financed the British invasion. I've got these white Rolling Stone brothers going all around the world.
Power.
Making
That's
my
power.
money, baby.
Exactly.
And the question is, does the power count if no one knows you have it?
Ooh. Well. Woo.
That's a great question, Andrew. I was going to say too, I think that's, like I said, I thought both of them made such good points, but I think that was where inevitably Malcolm lost me because I started to feel like it was an attack more than a conversation. I started to feel like, especially when he did that uppercut of Bob Dylan Blowing in the Wind comparison, and he's like, this man put out a better song than you have, and he's speaking more to the Black struggle than you ever have. I mean, this is supposed to be your friend. And yes, you can get into really strong debates with your friends, but it felt like you more so, Malcolm, wanted to win that argument than to understand where Sam was coming from. And that's where, even in debates as Black people, individuals in society, that's where you lose me, because we should try to understand where each other is coming from to uplift the community instead of antagonizing each other, saying, but listen, you're not doing it the way that I feel you should do it, and therefore you're wrong. It
was Jay-Z versus Colin Kaepernick. That was that conversation.
That's a great modern day comparison.
That was that conversation.
Jay-Z is working with the NFL. Yeah.
I employ all these people. I'm equity. I have all of this. And there are people on the front lines. And I'm actually supporting those people on the front lines. Financially, and I don't need to necessarily make everyone hate me to do my job, but I need you to be on the front lines, and you need me to finance you. So like, why are we fighting about our role in this? Because
you can never discredit Malcolm X being Malcolm X. I remember thinking, I was like, so we gonna go toe to toe verbally with Malcolm X? I would have shrunk in my skin. Like, hold on, I'm having a verbal debate with Malcolm X. I would have tapped out
mentally before walking in the room.
Delora, exactly. Like, of all people to come for you, Malcolm X is coming for you. You know what I mean? So it's not to negate. Yeah, but in his passion, you know, when he's like, we're fighting for our lives, like those moments were palpable. You know, I got chills.
And that actor did the damn thing. Okay.
Yes.
I want to also mention, so you all really mentioned all of the things that Sam Cooke did, but he, you know, the conversation of him doing what he had to do to play the game essentially. So it's kind of like, it's almost like the corporate Negro versus the woke Negro, right? Because the corporate, you know, we're all from corporate America and we know what it's like to play that game, you know.
Yeah, I feel like Malcolm was calling me a bougie Negro when he said that to Sam Cooke. I felt that in my soul. I was like, oh shit.
I am a brunch Negro. I myself am a brunch Negro. Okay.
You know what's wrong with you bougie Negroes? I was like, damn.
I would have stayed at the Fountain Blue too if I could. Ouch.
Yes.
But I also
really quick, let me finish my point really quick. You know, he was the first singing artists to go natural. I actually saw a documentary and Aretha Franklin mentioned that. She's like, they used to all get their hair permed up into that point. Sam, they said he always read a book. He always kept a book with him. He always wrote songs. So, and they kind of hinted to it in the film, like, although he didn't release a song like Dylan, he had them, you know what I mean? Well, but he was so busy playing the game that he didn't show his hand yet.
Well, let me say as a part of this too, Delora, that this conversation, this debate is probably one of the least factual points of the whole film because that song was actually the song was released before this conversation ever happened, right? He was already doing things to show that
and he
didn't need Malcolm X to take those steps. The real,
not at all. Right. I'm talking within the realm of the film. Yeah, but the fact is, Sam Cooke actually did love the song so much. He actually did say that he wished he wrote it, and he did the cover. He actually has a cover of it. So,
but he did,
right? Change is gonna come is based on listening to Blowing in the Wind.
Exactly.
So that prod matters, but I think it is. I want to step away from the corporate Negro because I've just moved.
Hey, you can call it whatever you want,
the
Andrew.
entrepreneurial, dang, I
the
keep thinking of all these
financially
different-
free
the financially empowering
Negro.
and freeing others, right? Like the Booker T. Washington Negro, right? Like,
yes.
If my struggle is economic, because at the end of the day, all of us are in America because that's where we live. Like, it means that I have to do things different than you. But like, it is like corporate feels like pandering, and he did feel corporate, right? He was like a more of a pandering.
I mean, he was
to the
thinking about
Copa
his next
type of
performance
thing.
at the Copacabana because the goal was to, make that transition from the chillin' circuit to mainstream. So that was always still a goal, and in
But
some
if
ways,
I take my mainstream money and I fund
yes,
Black artists, Black writers, Black musician, Black thought, Black movies, Black movements, like, just
And
shut
I'm
up and take
opening the
my
door.
money.
is it worth
I'm
it?
opening the door for
Yeah.
everybody
And say
else
thank
who
you.
comes.
Say thank
Take my
you.
money and say thank you, bro.
Well, that was my next question too, because out of the different types of Negroes, I've called Sam and then Malcolm. You have Jim Brown, who I would like to refer to as the realist out of everyone in the conversation. And his one-on-one with Malcolm was very interesting because he actually brought in the colorism aspect of it all.
Powerful.
And said that, you light-skinned Negroes are so militant. Is it because
you're the most militant?
You're trying to prove a point? But, I'm just going to, insert comment here and say, I feel like in some ways, the light-skinned Negroes were the ones who were actually able to be up front to have the microphone. So if you're going to say something, you might as well make the most of the situation. Because, unfortunately, based off colorism, the closer proximity to whiteness, the more favorable you are in the eyes of the mainstream media. So, I kind of get that to an extent. But again, back to what Brown was saying to Malcolm, real freedom essentially is economic freedom. And my question to you all is that actually true?
I'm an economic person. So
I was going to say, you go ahead, Andrew.
100%. Like, and I'm going to say it from my personal standpoint over the last year and a half. I've watched brothers in my circle get free. And I mean that from like freedom of expression, freedom of how they speak, talk, dress, act, look. And all of it has to do with them no longer being in white spaces and needing white approval to feed their family. So there's a thing that I'm watching happen in real time that I'm starting to experience in real time. That's why when we started this conversation, I was like, I can say what I want because I work for me, right? But no, there's this thing that happens very subtly when I have to change who I am to be accepted to feed my family. The notion is that who I am is not okay.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. And so
yes.
it is a daily degradation of identity that ends up showing up in all your other places of life.
And it's
when
exhausting.
You can feed your family as you are, and then find out what you actually like, the expressions, the people, how you want to speak, like language is a big piece of that, look, hair, clothes, all of that. I think that is how you fight freedom struggles anyway. Because at the end of the day, we can march and do things that are aggressive, but if there are no economic threats, like the Montgomery bus boycott was an economic threat.
It was
right?
Strategic. It was focused. Yes.
It was long-term. It was patient, and it was economic, right?
Yes.
Political
because
power in America is economic. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. We are a capitalist society that also practices democracy.
That's all that I was. That's all that I was gonna add to Andrew's, because he summed that up beautifully. Was that from what I've seen? Obviously, living in America, wealth is power. Period. Point blank. That's whether you're white, black, green, or blue. So absolutely, economic freedom, economic wealth is freedom.
And Jim Brown said my favorite part of the movie.
Yes.
Because technically, Sam Cooke is the only person not waiting to get paid by a white man.
Yep. in that room.
Yes.
And the question is, I don't know very many people who are Black not waiting on a check from a white person. Like, how can you be yourself and fight the power when a white person has to feed your family for you? It's hard.
Moment of thought. Okay.
I've been there. I be at work.
Lifetime of thought.
I wish I could tell him what I really think, but
did you all have anything to say about the light-skinned militant comment by Jim Brown also?
I mean, I just thought it was just as powerful as the conversation, given, again, where we're at currently, as the conversation that Malcolm and Sam had, because colorism, as we know, is very evident, very prominent. I do feel, as a lighter-skinned Black woman, that yes, there's definitely advantages. There's definitely times that you may feel you have to prove your Blackness depending on who you're around, or he even pointed out Black men in particular who may feel like they get picked on a bit by other Black men as they're growing up, seen it, lived it, experienced it, sure. But in terms of the division amongst the Black community is something we still have to struggle with and figure out. So to mention that in the context of everything else they were discussing, I thought was powerful, because as a Black community, we still have our own struggles that we have to address.
Absolutely.
It's not always
this movie was so good because it like you mentioned, he went from the external quote unquote struggle to the struggles within our actual community.
And wanting to say that to Malcolm in particular, who again was coming so hard at Sam.
So hard.
And like let's not pretend like, you know, there's not some shit you can be checked on, Malcolm, because there is, you know. I appreciated that in a friend circle, especially because they were all supposed to be friends.
What I think is really important, though, I think Leslie Odom was the perfect person to play the part, but he is a lot darker than Sam Cooke.
Yes.
And it's interesting when you think of colorism and being palatable in groups. Like, Sam Cooke is a very light-skinned brother, and the Valentinos and Bobby Womack is not. And so it's interesting to think about, like, they called Sam Cooke to try to get Black music for the Rolling Stones. And he was able, I believe, because all of our folks in the 60s and 70s, a lot of those folks who are palatable to white audiences are lighter skinned folks. And they get the opportunity, Dorothy Dandridge, right? They get the opportunity to break the barriers for everyone else. And I would be remiss
today.
And I would be remiss without, in this moment, saying, except for, and beautifully, Cicely Tyson, who did it with her dark ass skin.
I know.
Queen.
R.I.P. for her. Yeah. So
Ash and I were just talking about her too.
Yeah.
Just a jewel. For
sure.
A lot has happened. So another thing that X did, because again, I just feel like he was a man swinging at this point. He had to tell Clay that he's leaving the nation.
Yeah.
This was a tough scene to watch for me. Basically, he converted this man. He's practically transitioned, and he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm leaving. How would you process this? Like, what were your thoughts during this time from Clay's perspective in particular?
I understood his anger. I thought it was justified, because one could feel in that moment that you're manipulated. We've seen up until this point that Cassius is not 100% clear on his thoughts or his decision. He's wavering a little bit in that evening. He did say
passion was a strong word. And I also like to mention that Malcolm X mentioned that he was leaving the nation and that he was starting his own group, and it would be helpful if Clay would come along with him.
Yeah, so it can feel like, you know, I'm being used. Again, we're supposed to be friends. And I know we haven't talked about age, but Cassius Clay was the youngest of the group, right? Cassius Clay is 22. Yes. Malcolm X at this point was 38. Yeah, so, you know, this is someone he looked up to and was in real life a mentor to him. So his anger, in my opinion, was justified.
It's tough being in these mentor relationships, and like, especially when you feel like everybody wants something from you, right? I'm climbing the ladder. I got this Louisville group wanting something from me, my trainers, business people, white, Black. it's so nice to have someone who doesn't want anything from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that person was Malcolm X for him. Like, yo, he just wants me to be spiritually fed, to be whole. And then you realize, like, man, you've been playing an angle too. Like, that hurts.
And if you think about it, the betrayal of a spiritual advisor hits different.
It hits very different.
Yeah, that's true.
It hits very. That's a great point.
Well put. Do you feel like it's
not
also
to say that it was a betrayal though, because I don't think Malcolm's intentions were
we understood Malcolm's intentions.
I just wanted to put that out there because I know people are only listening to me. They don't know my mindset, so I'm just saying that to be clear.
Yeah, but I think it's important to know, like, there are intentions and then there are consequences, and I believe wholeheartedly. Like, I've recently, like you, Delora, in the last couple of years, really learning the story of his rise and then fall and then the breakaway and what was in his control and not in his control. We didn't talk about his JFK comments, but that's very, very important. That too.
You can bring it up. Go ahead.
So when JFK was murdered, assassinated, he had been told not to speak on it by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in his press appearances. And they continued to ask him, what do you think? And he tried to subtly say, well, violence begets violence. And he said, well, what are you saying? And he's like, well, for an American government that practices violence all over the earth, this is the chickens coming home to roost. And that is obviously against what he was ordered to say. And got him banned from speaking for 90 days. And that started the momentum of him being expelled from the nation. So in the middle of his being banned, he's in Miami trying to, if I can win over the most famous Negro young person, maybe I can fall back into the good graces with Elijah Muhammad and get back into the nation. So that all matters in the moment. So I agree. It's not his intention to use Muhammad
but he definitely
Ali,
wanted something.
But he did.
He had an agenda.
He would not have went to Miami, I don't believe, if he didn't need that domino to fall for himself. So it's not a bad thing. It's just a part of the story, and it's a very important and cool part of the story that they talked about it in the way that they did. And I can imagine being Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay at the time and being crushed.
Again, hit a little different.
In the words of Jim Brown from this movie, this is one strange fucking night.
He had a lot of great one-liners.
I'm telling you, the funniest person in this movie. Yeah. Is there anything else from this night in particular that you want to talk about before we go into the aftermath of this night? Oh, I'm sorry. There's one more thing I'm going to say about the night, but the night within the hotel, I guess. We'll talk about the party after. The real party.
I had this I had this overall interesting thought about Black people proclaiming their greatness.
Seeing it within each other.
Yes.
And relishing in it.
But like, what does it look like? I was feeling like Jim Brown and Cassius Clay were really opposites when it came to that.
Yeah.
That Cassius Clay was beating his chest from pre-fight, middle of the fight, end of the fight. And Jim Brown was really more of a humble Southern gentleman. In that first scene, the guy, Mr. Clayton, is like, you should take more pride. You're great, right? And
yes,
I think that we've been trained to like defer and be humble.
Yes,
and it's always nice to see somebody out there like, I'm the best motherfucker here. Like that's a cool thing to see from a Black person.
But guess what? No one in my family liked Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali until well later.
Aww.
Ain't that something? Ain't that something?
But I don't think we saw. I think when it comes, I think it has a lot to do with being raised, right? My family, predominantly Southern Black folk, you know, we just don't go around saying this. Now we see the value in it, right? You speak life into your life. Okay, I am the greatest. I am, you know what I mean? That sentence alone is the most powerful sentence you could ever say, right? But back in the day, I know my grandma could not stand him.
because we have this thing, like, we've been trained to defer, to be like meek and humble. Some of it's our Christian roots.
Yes, but
right?
You know, that conversation of nature versus nurture, as women, we're definitely told that
doubly
10 times.
Oh
so
my goodness.
that was going to be my question to Andrew, actually, because as a Black female watching it, I thought, and this is not to make it gender based essentially, but that would not be 1960s Black women. That was very much in my mind a Black male conversation, a Black male. I mean, privileged slightly to be over bold, you know, with that language and to have those feelings. You know what I mean? So, what was that your sentiment as well when you're watching that?
Absolutely. I mean, that is a to be a Black person and a Black woman and be that bold, you wouldn't get work, right? But to be clear, to be a Black male and be that bold and be that boisterous, they took away Muhammad Ali's job, right? Like, they tried to bankrupt him and make him the worst. Like, it wasn't allowed for Black men either.
That's true. I mean, he did go through a lot, especially when he decided not to.
The first Black heavyweight, Joe Johnson, I think. Ooh. They stripped his title from him and tried to throw him in jail for having sex with a white woman. So, like, it's never been okay for Black people in general. It's definitely not okay in those times for Black females. And I think it's awesome. Like, I get a lot of my Black identity pride boosts from Black women these days. Like, I run Beyonce. And like, yo, y'all just talking in a different way.
You know, like, people felt uncomfortable with Beyonce. And when she started talking about, now Bow Down was a bit much. But, you know, when she started talking her shit, people didn't like it.
But why though? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, the whole album, like Power, like the whole joint Black Parade, like, it's so, like, the entire homecoming performance, like, yo, I'm the fucking shit. Like, I'm the fucking shit. Deal with it. It makes people so uncomfortable. But in my field, in finances, and we're dealing with a lot of Black folks and Black women and business owners, like, they have trouble becoming or saying that they're experts and their pricing. So I think all of that comes from a place of be meek, be humble, don't brag, don't toot your own horn.
If we're talking about, you know, I am statements, beating our chest, what's the difference between Cassius Clay and Kanye?
Andrew?
All right, so hot take. Hot take.
I can't stand Kanye. I'm going to put that on record.
Hot take.
Put that on wax.
Listen, he was once my favorite.
Listen, hot take.
A long time ago.
Hot take.
First album.
When Kanye was Cassius Clay and he was the greatest, and he said it before anybody believed it, and he willed himself to being a creative juggernaut, I fucked with him heavily. Yeah. I think the mentality of believing in yourself, like his first trilogy, and like pushing yourself forward to fail and try again, I am all for that Kanye. Like, and I think even that type of, we can call it arrogance, but what is arrogance when nobody believes in you? It's faith. Like,
okay,
I fuck with
Why
that.
Why isn't it fraud?
Why isn't it fraud? Because you got to back it up.
His talent,
proof
matched his mouth.
Himself.
The proof is in the pudding, right? Like, if you beat your chest and you get if you Adrian Bronner it and beat your chest and then get knocked out, then no fraud. But if you Money Mayweather it, beat your chest and then never lose a fight, like, you get to do that. And I think that there's something about being your biggest fan when nobody's your fan.
Yeah.
That is so necessary for Black folks in general. everybody specifically, but Black folks in general, like, if nobody's rooting for you, you got to be rooting for you. And you've got to root for you hard enough to overcome everybody else not rooting for you.
That's
so
very true.
I'm with that beat your chest shit. I swear I am. You got to do the work. I don't fuck with Kanye because he sold out Black people by being a terrible, like, person for human rights, and he turned into a trash political figure.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been the personal side of it that has overshadowed the talent side of it, right? Because early career Kanye, you're right. The bragging, being arrogant. He's always been arrogant. He's always been. It never bothered me until he started making terrible decisions and making crazy.
Wait. When he started retelling history.
Exactly.
Slavery was a choice.
Yeah, I mean, he took things to another level that overshadowed the talent for sure. It's still possibly there. I don't know because I don't listen to his albums anymore.
To see how history is going to shine its light on him. That's all I gotta say.
No, I agree. Sure. I think it's going to shine his light on him, as I think they're going to give him his due as a creative genius,
for sure,
and a person who dedicated himself to a craft. He changed music like on 3 or 4 different ways.
I agree with you, Andrew. My guy friends just had a podcast, and they talked about one of the DJs, I think it was like top lists, and he had Kanye is like number 17, and it just felt so disrespectful because from a talent perspective, Kanye is still Kanye. You know what I mean? You cannot negate the talent.
You can do talent, you can do sales, you can do influence. Like,
they also mention influence.
Yeah, when I go into, like, there are people on that list that he might have put above Kanye that are doing Kanye renditions, right? Like, all soul beat sampling comes from Kanye making it mainstream. And that's the thing they mentioned. He's not just a rapper; he's a producer. Like, his influence on the game is undeniable. The emo part, like everything that Young Thug makes, like everything that most of these new rappers make, came from him out of pain making 808s and heartbreaks. Like, and that didn't exist before.
Speaking of legacies,
I'm a Kanye fan, but of his music, not as a person. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna say 2 things. So I'm gonna end the night by saying, they left the hotel finally, and they had a real party, and they pretty much did the remake of that iconic picture that this whole play and screenplay was based off of, at the diner. And one of the things that I think was very interesting is they also set it up to show Malcolm X looking out the window and seeing one of his brothers from the nation, you know, connecting with the white agents. So, you know, I think they did a really good job just showing that, you know, Malcolm X at this time was a cornered man, you know what I mean? And so Lord knows what emotions he was going through, but I thought Kinsley embodied that very well. And so I want to talk about the aftermath.
Okay.
After this iconic night, the film then goes to Sam on Johnny Carson performing his iconic, the civil rights anthem, Change Is Gonna Come. We also see that Cassius Clay has now become Muhammad Ali. And I thought this is actually visually one of my favorite scenes, when you see the men and women stand up in their black and white clapping, and you see him look over to that empty chair and Malcolm X is not there. Speaking of Malcolm X, they fast forward quite a bit, and this is when his house gets set on fire and he and his family had to flee. But then we also see that he had the transcript of the iconic book, the autobiography of Malcolm X. Jim Brown did a Shonda Rhimes, gathered his fabric and said deuces to the Browns because they were petty and they didn't respect him and his star power for him to pursue his acting career. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to be an NFL player anymore. I'm going to pursue acting. And then lastly, I really love how this film ends. It ends with Malcolm seeing Sam Cooke sing this song with a message on television. And then that's how the film ends. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, because I want to incorporate some real life history in this, with the discussion of how history is going to look upon the legacy of men. Well, Sam Cooke and Malcolm X both died shortly after. So Sam Cooke died in December of 1964, and Malcolm X literally died 1 year after. And the thing about Sam Cooke's death that I want to highlight is that his death was so unfortunate. He died at a motel after having an affair with a woman, and he thought that the manager had something to do with it, and she shot him 3 times in the chest. And
her claiming that he was trying to rape them, and it was just a lot of speculation about the realities of the situation.
And the Black community kind of refused to accept the story. But
for good
with
reason.
that, what the Black community did do, we only know his legacy for his music. We only know about his entrepreneurship. We only know about, the good things about him. And so I think that was something I was trying to tie into that. Is there anything else with the ending of this film or something that happened in terms of these men post this event that you would like to talk about?
Yeah,
Andrew, as always, go first.
Yeah, thank you. There was this powerful scene where Malcolm X comes back after Sam Cooke storms out, and they come back, and I don't want to leave this scene out because it's really important. He shares how he was there during this scene in Boston in the crowd, that he'd seen these performances, right? He said, I'm a fan. I've seen you multiple times, but none of them as much as the one. I didn't enjoy any of them as much as I enjoyed Boston. And he makes him tell the story of the sound being cut out and him being on stage with all these people and the way that he galvanized this crowd. And he says, I've been hard on you because nobody in this room can do what you can do. Like, you are the most powerful, iconic one of us all. And I'm pushing you and kind of trying to get you to be the best version of yourself. Be all that you can be.
You can move mountains without lifting a finger.
Like, wow, right?
Yes.
There's this thing about brothers challenging brothers, sisters challenging sisters. And then sometimes it is aggressive like it was. And sometimes I think it has to have the love component that was like, I see you, brother. Maybe I'm doing it the wrong way, but I swear it's coming from a good place. Like, that was powerful for me. And I think it's a piece of the film. That was my favorite part of the film, actually.
That was a beautiful scene, to your point. Because again, I thought Malcolm went too far as a friend in the conversation. So it was nice to see that wrap back around to, listen, I do appreciate you and I recognize your greatness. And that is the only reason why I've come at you the way that I have. Because to think that friends or family or people you love don't see you or support you or think that you are talented or acknowledge things is very hurtful. So I think it was much needed in the dynamics of their relationship in terms of the wholeness of the film. But also, I wanted to say, Andrew, that caused me to go down a Jackie Wilson rabbit hole as well, because I didn't really know anything about Jackie Wilson.
Jackie.
And I was like, who is this man?
Who's that?
So Jackie Wilson was a prominent performer at the time. They talked about him because, remember, he was played by Jeremy Pope, who I love from Hollywood on Netflix. And unfortunately, he also died kind of tragically because he ended up having a heart attack on stage and went into like a coma and never fully recovered. So he was like in a almost vegetative state for like 9 years, but he was a dynamic performer.
What?
He was the one that was on stage before him that he was blaming for like messing up the sound.
Yes.
Jackie
Wilson, he was a sabotager.
Thinking about the 9-year coma. I'm sorry.
Oh no, look it up. It's tragic to think about, but I guess apparently, let me not give away anything. Feel free to Google it, Delora, and all the listeners, because it is an interesting story. But the last thing I want to say about the film overall was, Delora, I sent you an article about, the Malcolm X Muhammad Ali friendship really stuck with me throughout the film, especially again because of the mentor-mentee relationship. and that the estrangement that Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali chose to stay with the nation after Malcolm left, that estrangement from Malcolm X was one of the biggest regrets of Muhammad Ali's life.
Yes.
And that just devastates me in a way, because to imagine that this was a friend of yours who you thought at the time you were making the best decision for yourself or whatever was going on
for your life. Religion is major.
Absolutely. You never know what life is going to bring or what's going to happen. He obviously had no idea that Malcolm was going to be killed, within the next year. To think that he had to live with that for the rest of his life just bothers me. So that was just something that even watching the film stuck with me as something that in real life was like, such significance, such reality, and something for me personally that I really took away from it, as in, you never know what the next day is going to bring. So I don't want to live my life full of regret.
I think one of my biggest takeaways over the last year has been really digging into like the amount of greatness and devastation of Black folks in the 60s. Like I could not imagine, like I made a list of people who are as iconic as the people in these films and in the lives of Black folks for hope and for sport and for entertainment, religion and political, that were all murdered. And I say that specifically, some of them died natural causes. Like Chadwick last year hurt my soul in a way that was, but he wasn't murdered though.
Yes.
Right. He wasn't, it was just untimely.
He was untimely. Taken away from us, but not in a violent way.
Right.
Like,
violent
way.
And violence and conspiracy and white, right. Like Nipsey. But that, I had so much empathy for Black folks who lived through the 60s.
For sure.
Martin and Malcolm and even
Kennedy,
both of them. And
but
then you get into Sam Cooke and you get into Jackie Wilson and you get into Medgar Evers and you get into all of these people who were household names murdered.
Yeah.
And then you try to figure out why aren't we in better places? I'm like, they murdered everybody. And I have no idea how I could have been hopeful. Like if I meet an 80-year-old who was hopeful after the 60s, like I just want to hug him. We're not even talking about Fred Hampton. We're not even talking about Angie.
Yeah.
Like we're not even talking about all of the Black Panthers that then got displaced and killed and murdered. And I just like, man, I don't know what shred of hope I would have had after experiencing that stuff.
Absolutely. And to your point, that's why I think the last quote at the end of the film, that this is a time for martyrs now, and if I should be one of them, then let it be for brotherhood, was so powerful. What a powerful way to end.
Absolutely.
Could y'all be a martyr? Like that, I wrote that down when I was watching it. Like, I'm like,
I like
could
to
you
live.
like knowing?
I want to tell the story. I love history too much.
I
will give you the best story. I was there. I did what I had to do.
But Andrew, that is the question of our time, I feel like, because I've heard people now have that mindset of, is this another time to where people are going to have to make those type of sacrifices of even their lives?
Like, what are you willing to give your life for?
Exactly. That's why I can't stand to have conversations with people where they criticize those leaders of that era, because you have never given your life for anything. So don't you dare fix your mouth to criticize something.
Exactly.
That was
Fix your mouth to say something like that to me. Okay.
That's Ashley for you.
It's so hard. It's so hard for me to hear that. So like I think I would have been more like James Baldwin personally. I'd have been like, "Ooh, them people tripping. I'm gonna write about y'all in Paris.
I'm gonna go to
write about y'all in Paris.
My cafe and my croissant and be like, "Ooh, let me write down my thoughts. Let me
Sunday afternoon notes. Days over there tripping."
I still wonder if that's one of the things that like caused Nina Simone to have her mental health issues later in life, because again, as Andrew, to your point, to live in that period of time, like we think we're suffering mental health issues to a certain extent right now.
I mean, it's a once in a generation pandemic and we still don't know what the fallout.
Delora, that's what I said was not to negate what we're going through. But I'm saying to Andrew's point, like if we were seeing our prominent Black leaders being murdered
Yeah.
And the threat to our lives was just, I mean, as imminent as it feels right now, that's a whole nother level when you're seeing them get assassinated.
But that's always been the tactic, right? That's always been the tactic. Make certain people examples to keep certain people in place, unfortunately.
1,000%. And so you're right. Like I swiped through a meme and somebody's like, whoo, 2020 was the worst year on record. And I'm like, what? Like, what? 68 was what are you talking about?
Well,
like,
I'll just say I bet Jesus begs to differ. That's all I got. I mean,
y'all crazy, man.
That's all I got.
So that's big. Like I feel that, like, to watch the greatness, right? The economic empowerment, like to even just imagine what Sam Cooke's empire would have looked like for another 50 years.
But his crew, their crew was so phenomenal. Iron sharpens iron, okay? Like the fact that you cannot go to the next level unless you are with people on the same wavelength, and to find each other in such a dynamic time is one of the reasons why I just could not wait to see this movie, and it did not disappoint.
I mean, this was Black Panther, going back to the Black Avengers, this is Black Panther before Black Panther, okay? You had T'Challa.
Absolutely.
You had Killmonger. You had all the characters in one. So powerful. I loved it. Exceptional job to this cast. Exceptional job to Regina King. Girl, I hope you get every award.
Period. Bravo.
Amazing.
Bravo.
Oh my goodness. Andrew, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I'm just happy to be here. If y'all ever need my take on something else, like, invite me back.
It's been a pleasure, sir.
It has been an absolute pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. We also want to thank your beautiful fiance, Lauren, who I know is a listener. Thank you for, letting him spend some time with us to talk about this fantastic movie. Oh my goodness. Again, highly recommend. So glad that we had the opportunity to do this. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank y'all. See y'all later. Keep on recapping.
It is time for our hidden gems, Delora. Please hit us with yours for the week.
All right. So after watching this film, I immediately wanted to go into history. I'm a history buff to begin with, and I love a good documentary. And Netflix has two of them featuring two of the gentlemen we just recapped in this movie. So the first is Who Killed Malcolm X? It is a mini series or limited series, 6 episodes. It follows a gentleman who is on the quest to find the person who pulled the trigger. And the show does a great job leading us through essentially Malcolm X's last days. Also, The Two Killings of Sam Cooke. That is a documentary. Sam Cooke is such an interesting figure for me because I grew up loving his music. That change is gonna come. Still gives me goosebumps to this day. Okay, and to see such talent, it was almost like a shooting star, right? Like he rose fast, and he was young. Like all these men were young. You know what I mean?
I know. I am the age that Sam Cooke was when he died. Girl. So that's, I've told you this, whenever I know of a certain celebrity who passed away at the age that I turned, it's always like, oh, so this is where, because you're at that point, like this is what you could have been like or thinking or going through or what have you. Once you reach that stage, it's still so young in the world. I know he had accomplished quite a bit.
So much.
But tragic.
But in the Black community, we kind of refuse to believe what's been reported. So unfortunately, it was a situation.
For good reason.
Yeah. So he was a young man on the rise, had a lot of ownership, had a lot of money and power. And he was honestly Berry Gordy before Berry Gordy had Motown.
And he could sing.
So I just highly recommend these two projects if you're interested. Ashley, what are your hidden gems?
Yes, ma'am. So Liberate is my first hidden gem. It is an app that one of my friends just put me onto. As I told you guys before, I started getting more into meditation during everything that has transpired, trying to keep my mental health intact. This one is founded by an Afro-Latino man named Julio Rivera, and it is intentionally created for people of color. He created it because he felt that the meditation apps he was using were not really helpful for him, or identifying certain things that, you know, as people of color, specifically Black people, we go through. So the platform showcases, and is specific to certain issues like microaggressions, things like that. So I just highly recommend it. Again, supporting a Black business, supporting something that was specifically designed for us in mind. I've enjoyed it thus far. My second hidden gem for this week, Black Box, 2020 film on Amazon Prime. They call it a horror, but I call it a thriller because I don't like horror movies.
I was going to say, I'm surprised you watched it.
I do not watch horror movies. This is starring Felicia Rashad, and I do not want to butcher this man's name. I tried to find the correct pronunciation. Mamadou Athie. I hope that is correct. He has starred.
He was in Uncorked.
Exactly, Uncorked and The Get Down. He's been in multiple things at this point, but he is the star, and he is a man struggling to regain his memory after a tragic car accident. There's so many twists and turns. It was excellent acting across the board. Felicia Rashad has been living her best life in a lot of things lately. So my mom recommended that to me. I very much enjoyed it, and now I'm recommending it to all of you guys. So those are my two hidden gems for our first Black History Month of hidden gems. Yes. So next week, Malcolm and Marie.
Yes. Oh, actually, that was also snubbed in the awards.
Yeah.
They didn't get any love because that was definitely some Oscar bait there.
And it's surprising given Zendaya's Emmys win, right? Exactly. It was surprising. Exactly. But I'm very much looking forward to this one. I'm looking forward to all the films that we're doing for Black History Month for sure. But at the time we're recording this, we haven't even gotten a chance to watch it yet. So I'm super excited. I hope it's excellent. And we're going to talk to you guys about it next week. So see you then.
Really quick. One last thing. It was just announced today. Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella starring Brandy and Whitney Houston and Whoopi Goldberg will be on Disney Plus starting February 12th. I'm losing it internally. I cannot deal. My sister and I wore out that VHS. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're welcome. Just to keep everyone posted on what's going on.
Thank you so much. I caught that as well, and I immediately started singing. Looking forward to rewatching it and revisiting it as an adult. And I'll see you guys next week. Delora, see you then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.